Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the most deeply terrifying cosmic mysteries out there. What actually happens if the Emperor of Mankind finally wakes up? According to some of the darkest theories hidden deep within the lore, there's literally one event the Imperium fears way more than any Tyrannid High Fleet, more than any Chaos Black Crusade. And honestly, maybe even more than the end of humanity itself. And that's the Emperor just opening his eyes because, after 10,000 years of complete silence, nobody truly knows what would happen. And the absolute most terrifying possibility, humanity might not even survive the answer. For 10 millennia, the single most powerful human being in existence has been trapped in this agonizing limbo between life and death. Think about the sheer unimaginable reality of his day-to-day existence. He's not dead. He's not really alive. He isn't speaking, and he certainly isn't ruling. He's just watching. Deep beneath Terra, you have this skeletal form illuminated by failing golden light. Completely surrounded by massive ancient cathedral machinery and thousands of robed tech priests who are desperately tending to systems they barely even understand anymore. It's just a chilling, completely static existence, and the sheer scale of this horror is incredibly difficult to wrap your head around. 10,000 years. Every single day for those 10 millennia, 1,000 psychers are sacrificed, literally fed to the machinery just to keep him in this state. Entire galactic wars are fought in his name, and trillions upon trillions worship him as a literal god, all while the Imperium claims they have everything totally under control. Now, the official Imperial narrative goes like this. The Emperor sits upon the golden throne simply to guide humanity through the warp. He generates this massive psychic beacon, the Astronomicon, which acts like a cosmic lighthouse, allowing Imperial ships to navigate a galaxy that's basically consumed by darkness. The party line is that, without him sitting right there on the throne, interstellar civilization immediately collapses, and humanity is totally doomed. But come on, that creates a massive, glaring contradiction, right? A question that practically no Imperial citizen is ever allowed to ask. If the Emperor is still alive, why has he remained completely silent for 10,000 years? Why just sit there motionless while literally half the galaxy burns to the ground? Why allow endless corruption to consume the very Imperium he built? Why tolerate an ecclesiarchy that worships him as a deity when he spent centuries violently condemning religion? It's the kind of contradiction that would get you executed for heresy just for voicing it aloud. Official records give absolutely zero answers, and whole sections of ancient imperial archives are just blacked out by inquisitorial authority. And this static, decaying figure on the throne is just such a stark contrast to the man he used to be. The Emperor was never, ever a passive ruler who just sat back and watched events unfold from the sidelines. Before he was entombed, he was out there personally leading armies. He conquered thousands of worlds. He outmaneuvered demigod Primarchs and completely reshaped human civilization. So the reality is that his current physical and mental condition remains one of the absolute greatest unknowns in the entire setting. Some sources hint he's barely hanging on to life, while others suggest his psychic power has actually grown way beyond anything we saw during the Great Crusade. To really understand what might be happening to him in that chair, we have to remember how the warp operates. It's essentially a mirror. It functions entirely on emotion, belief, and raw psychic energy. I mean, the chaos gods themselves were formed through collective psychic energies over time. Khorne emerged from violence, Nurgle from despair, Tzeentch from ambition, and Slaanesh, of course, from excess. Which leads us to this deeply terrifying thought. Across the Imperium, countless trillions of humans passionately worship the Emperor every single day. Their prayers flood directly into the Immaterium, All that faith is strengthening something. But what exactly? After 10,000 uninterrupted years of fanatical worship by trillions of people, could humanity be accidentally creating a fifth divine entity? Like, could the Emperor already be transforming into an actual warp god? And if he does wake up, would he even still think like a man, or would he think like a god? Whatever eventually stands up from the golden throne might not be the same being that was sat down on it. And that question becomes even more disturbing when we look at the state of the Imperium today. The classic imperial myth assumes that his awakening would just instantly save humanity. Boom, problem solved. But let's be real, the brutal reality is far different. The modern Imperium barely survives, and it does so through sheer brute force scale, definitely not efficiency. Basic bureaucratic clerical errors doom billions of people, and critical military reinforcements arrive decades late, usually just to secure planets that have already been dead for a century. Imagine the Emperor suddenly waking up to witness a civilization built entirely around superstition, blind faith, endless horrific sacrifice, and petty political infighting. Literally everything he originally tried to prevent. Would he be pleased, or would he be absolutely unremittingly horrified? Militarily speaking, the exact moment the Emperor awakens, every single major power in the galaxy is gonna notice. The warp itself would violently react. Remember, the Chaos Gods have spent 10,000 years actively opposing the Emperor. His awakening would be like ringing a galactic dinner bell, triggering a response unlike anything in recorded history. Chaos simply cannot and will not ignore him if he returns as an active, moving force. The immediate galactic fallout would be completely unprecedented. We are talking about massive tearing warp storms, sprawling demonic invasions pouring into real space, galaxy-wide psychic disturbances frying minds, and entire sectors just instantly collapsing into sheer anarchy. The galaxy would immediately become a battlefield on a scale we have never seen before. But hey, chaos isn't even the only concern here. The Imperium itself would likely fracture from the inside. Because this physical galactic chaos would immediately be matched by an absolute political nightmare. For 10,000 years, vast organizations like the Ecclesiarchy, the Inquisition, and the High Lords of Terra have built absolute unquestioned power around the Emperor's silence. They derive all their authority from claiming to interpret his will. But what happens when the guy suddenly starts speaking for himself? Thousands of years of political assumptions become totally worthless overnight. Imagine the Emperor standing up and publicly declaring, "I am not a god." The entire foundation of the imperial religion would just shatter. Some planets would obey, others would flat out refuse, and let's be honest, many might even accuse the Emperor himself of heresy, because the Imperium has spent 10 millennia worshipping a highly curated image of the Emperor, not necessarily the man himself. But the biggest shock to his system might actually come from the cold, hard military situation. The Emperor would immediately recognize something that most citizens just don't get. Humanity is fighting way too many wars. The Imperium is simultaneously facing expanding orcs, advancing tyrannids, spreading chaos, and awakening necrons. But their real fatal weakness isn't a lack of bravery or bodies, it's logistics. Resources are finite. Fleets desperately need fuel. Armies need complex supply chains. So many imperial victories are strategically unsustainable long-term, and the Emperor, he would calculate that the second he opens his eyes. And that cold calculation could lead to executive decisions the modern Imperium is completely unprepared for. The Emperor has never, ever been known for sentimentality. During the Great Crusade, he routinely made brutal decisions based purely on long-term survival, not immediate emotion. So what if he decided to just abandon entire worlds? What if he ruthlessly sacrificed whole sectors just to preserve humanity's core, or instantly withdrew from campaigns he deemed unwinnable? He wouldn't try to save everyone. He'd only care about saving the species. And then, of course, there's the catastrophic possibility hidden inside countless fan theories. What if the Golden Throne itself is already failing? It was never actually intended to operate for 10,000 years. If he awakens, he might face an impossible lose-lose choice. Remain plugged in to support the Astronomicon or leave the throne entirely. If he unplugs and leaves, you get this terrifying domino effect. The Astronomicon dies out. Warp navigation instantly becomes incredibly dangerous, if not impossible. Communication and trade routes completely collapse. Entire sectors become totally isolated in the dark. Ironically, the Emperor waking up might actually shatter human civilization in a matter of years, weakening humanity instead of saving it. We also definitely have to consider the Primarchs in all this. Take Robot Guilliman, the only loyalist Primarch who's currently active on a grand galactic scale. He already openly expresses profound frustration with the Imperium's insane bureaucracy, its stagnation, and its religious extremism. Imagine Guilliman finally getting to speak face-to-face with his father again. Would the Emperor actually approve of how Guilliman has been running things, or would he instantly condemn it? Beyond just passing judgment on the current state of affairs, an awake Emperor could finally reveal secrets that have been hidden since the Horus Heresy. We'd finally get answers to the deepest mysteries of the entire setting, like what actually happened to the lost Primarchs. What is the real status of the Webway project? What is the true, unfiltered nature of chaos? And what was his actual plan for humanity's ultimate future? He could drop lore bombs capable of fundamentally rewriting the entire universe as we know it. But perhaps the most frightening possibility of all involves humanity's psychic evolution. You see, the Emperor's long-term vision was never merely just surviving the horrors of the galaxy. It was always about transformation. He truly believed humanity was evolving into a psychic species capable of rivaling the raw powers of the warp itself. If he awakens, he might attempt to massively accelerate that process. But psychic evolution is incredibly dangerous. Uncontrolled psychers literally just become walking gateways for demons. To safely achieve this evolution, the Emperor's solution might require sacrifices on a completely unimaginable scale. It really raises the question of whether humanity would even willingly accept the future he envisions. Ultimately, if we're gonna talk about his return, we have to drop our modern illusions about who he actually is. The Emperor is not a conventional hero. His goals are survival, order, and control. He is a millennia-old strategist, ruthless, calculating, and absolutely willing to sacrifice millions to save billions or maybe trillions. His return would not bring comfort or peace. It would bring change, and it's the kind of rapid, violent, foundational change that civilizations rarely ever survive. Chaos would react. Political and religious institutions would face complete existential collapse, and ancient secrets would upend everything. So as we wrap up this explainer, the true question is no longer whether the Emperor can save the Imperium. The real question is whether the Imperium still even resembles the civilization he wanted to save in the first place. If the Emperor finally rises from the Golden Throne, will he look out and see humanity's greatest achievement or its absolute greatest failure? Was his awakening always our ultimate hope, or the exact moment the dark truth could no longer be hidden? Keep questioning what lies in the dark.